I'm Lisa Archer from Pickle Pie Designs. I created this fun project for Creative Machine Embroidery. Today we're making a little Easter egg holder with a chick on the front, and we're using felt for this project, which is a really great material to stitch on with your embroidery machine. For the project, the supplies that we'll need are 2 pieces of felt that will make up the base of the egg holder, a piece of yellow felt for the chick, and a piece of white felt for his belly, plus threads to match our designs. It's also helpful to have applique scissors because we'll be cutting out some of the felt pieces in the hoop. Tape is also a very helpful supply to have to hold down the felt. Okay, let's get started. We have our tearaway stabilizer already hooped and our hoop attached to the embroidery machine, and we have the design already loaded on our embroidery machine. So to begin, we're going to stitch a placement line. And the placement line will show us exactly where to place the first piece of felt. Okay, now that that has stitched, you can see our placement line on the stabilizer. We're going to take one of the larger pieces of felt and just place it right over that placement line, making sure you're covering all of the stitches. You can use tape to hold that down. And at this point, you're going to want to use thread that matches your felt. But for the video, I'm using a dark gray, just so that you can see the stitches. Okay, we have our felt taped down, so we'll bring it back to the embroidery machine and attach the hoop. And you can go ahead and clip that thread so that it doesn't get in the way. Okay, now that we've completed that second stitch sequence, we'll just bring it back. And you'll notice that on the center of the felt, there's a chick-shaped outline there. And that's a placement line for your yellow felt. So we'll take that piece and just place it right over the placement line, making sure you're covering all the stitches of that chick outline. And we'll tape that in place to hold it. And we'll bring our hoop back over to the embroidery machine. And this next stitch sequence will create an outline of the chick, and this is a cutting line. The cutting line shows you where to cut around that felt. And now that that stitch sequence is complete, we'll bring it once again over to the mat, take off the tape that's holding down the yellow felt, and we'll take our applique scissors and we're going to trim around that outline. And you want to get it right as close as you can up against the stitches without snipping through the stitches. And you will have to turn your hoop to get all the way around the chick outline. Applique scissors are great because they hold the back of the fabric up for you. So when you're trimming an applique, it makes the job a lot easier. Okay, now that we have that trimmed, we'll bring it back to the embroidery machine. And this next stitch sequence is a placement line for the chick's belly fabric. Again, we're going to trim that thread so it doesn't get in the way. And that stitch sequence is done. We're going to bring it back over to the mat, and we're going to place the white fabric for the belly over that placement line. Tape it in place to hold it down. back to our embroidery machine. And you're going to want to use white thread at this point on the white felt. Again, I'm using the dark gray just for demonstration purposes so you can see it. And once that stitch sequence is done, take it off, bring it back to our mat, and remove the tape from the white felt. Use our embroidery scissors to just trim around that. Again, getting as close as you can to those stitches without snipping them. You can make a whole bunch of these in different colors, use different colored felt for the bases, and have a whole rainbow of colors on your Easter table. So at this point, I've placed it back, my hoop back on the embroidery machine, and I am going to go ahead and change the thread. The beak is going to stitch next, and you'll want orange thread. Okay, we can go ahead and start this stitch sequence to stitch the beak. We're once again trimming our thread. And next we'll do the eyes, so we're going to change the thread color once again. And we'll start that stitch sequence to do the eyes. Okay, now that the eyes are stitched, we're moving on to our final stitch sequence. So we're going to take the hoop off of the machine and bring it over to the mat. We're all done on the front of the hoop. Now we're going to turn it over to the back and work on the back. So working on the back of the hoop, generally what it does in the hoop embroidery is it encases all of those ugly stitches on the back so that they're not shown in the final project. We'll place the final piece of felt over all of the outlines and use tape to secure the felt to the stabilizer. I'm using a wool blend felt for this project. I really like working with wool blend felt. They take stitches really well. The stitches show up and they're sitting above the felt. You can use the craft store variety, but do experiment with the wool felt if it's available to you, and you'll see a great difference in your finished projects when you use a wool blend. So we have that completely taped on. We're making sure it's going to securely stay on the stabilizer when we turn the hoop back over and slide it on the machine. If you don't tape it well enough, sometimes the fabric can shift, and that will ruin your project if you stitch over fabric that has shifted or folded. So now that that's done, we'll take it back to the embroidery machine. And we'll sew our final stitch sequence to finish our stitching. Okay, so we're finished with the stitching. You'll want to just clip the little jump thread between the eyes. And these snips are wonderful for machine embroidery. They have a curved blade so that you can get under those tiny stitches. So once we're done with that, we'll remove all of the tape, and we will take the project out of the hoop and remove all of the stabilizer. And then we will cut around the outline of the base and also the chick. And I have done this one completely. And you'll notice there are two little notches there within that part of the design. You're going to want to cut in those notches with a scissor, making sure you don't clip the threads as you go. Do it on both sides. And those notches will allow you to bend the base around to the back, slide the notches inside one another, and now your Easter egg holder will stand up on its own. Put your Easter eggs in there and set them on your Easter table, and they're really cute, a fun little Easter decoration. Thank you for joining me today. I had a lot of fun stitching this project with you, and I hope you'll have fun doing your own chick Easter egg holders.